Many people report fleeting encounters. A single abduction by the Greys, a brief glimpse of a Tall, a strange interaction with a Nordic. Charles Hall was not one of those people. His story is that of a man who, over the course of years, had contact with 3 different extraterrestrial species, above all, with the Tall Whites. And although some of them became something like acquaintances, each meeting remained tense. They always arrived heavily armed. The stage for this narrative is a mixture of memories, research, and the framework of a show called American Alchemy. There, Hall is introduced as someone who claims to have seen the inside of a UFO, to have witnessed collaboration between humans and extraterrestrials, and remarkably, to have even made one of them laugh. The host's tone is both curious and cautious. He warns the story is wild, boundary-shattering, and even he doesn't quite know what to make of it. Background and training. In 1965, at the age of 19, Charles Hall joined the U.S. Air Force. He trained as a weather observer measuring wind speeds, logging cloud cover, assessing visibility. From 1965 to 1967, he was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. His duties included long, isolated stays at the Indian Springs gunnery ranges deep in the desert. That's where it began. Tall, bright, pale figures appeared at a distance, glowing shapes in twilight. At first, Hall thought they were ghosts or hallucinations brought on by solitude and monotony. Others saw strange things as well. They whispered about the legend of Range 4 Harry, a ghostly, radioactive, fluorescent white horse said to glide silently across the ranges at night. One observer was even injured during an encounter with something and discharged medically. Others refused to return to the post. Hall, however, did not break. Something about him, resilience, temperament, or just sheer stubbornness, kept him steady where others failed. His superiors noticed this, and so, Hall says, did the beings themselves. Out of this lonely trial by fire began a slow process of contact. The first encounter's an unwritten protocol. The Tall Whites observed him, circled him, appeared suddenly and vanished again, always gauging his reactions. Hall gradually learned a kind of unspoken language, gestures, distances, gaze directions, tests of trust. He saw family groups, parents, children, elders. Over time, he even came to call one of them something like a brother. The interactions were not without setbacks, some painful, but the relationship thawed. Hall reports that the Tall Whites used underground facilities at the north end of Indian Springs Valley with hangars for their craft. According to later commentators, his descriptions lined up in striking ways with rumors of secret installations in the area, and with what since 2017 has entered public discussion under the term UAPs. More than one species, the Tall Whites were not alone. There were also the Greys, small, fragile, large-headed, the classic Roswell image. Their technology, Hall says, was weaker than that of the Tall Whites, but their home planet was closer, which is why they arrived earlier on Earth and in greater numbers. Hall estimates that 90% of genuine sightings involve gray spacecraft, 10% the Tall Whites, and occasionally the Nordics, sometimes described as Norwegians with 24 teeth. They appeared more patient, diplomatic, and benevolent, with some said to blend undetected into human crowds. From all this, Hall infers the possibility that these species have been on Earth for thousands of years, influencing evolution and society. He does not present scientific proof in the strict sense. Rather, he insists on personal conviction grounded in experience. Big claims on American Alchemy. The show builds suspense. It promises discussion of everything from banal details, such as how aliens might handle basic bodily needs, to propulsion systems, of UFOs and subatomic physics that supposedly overthrow Einstein. A NASA employee, Timothy Taylor, is mentioned as especially interested in experiencers, people with first-hand encounters, and is even described as a friend of the show. The intention is to suggest the subject is broader and deeper than skeptics assume. Numbers, achievements, and academic rigor. Hall presents himself as meticulous, emphasizing his mathematical and scientific bent. In the Air Force aptitude test for mathematics, he claims he answered 499 of 500 questions correctly, the last marked wrong, only because his paper was pulled away when time ran out. 10 more seconds, he insists, and it would have been perfect. Later, he earned a master's degree in nuclear physics. Area 51, Dreamland, and the Geography of Secrecy. In the 1960s, Area 51 meant primarily Groom Lake, the gateway to a series of numbered zones stretching to Area 60. Hall says he had been in all of them. Collectively, they were grouped into lands, the most famous being Dreamland. But he stresses, Area 51 itself is not Dreamland. Dreamland refers to Areas 53 and 54, the northern Indian Springs Valley, the Dogbone Valley to the east, and parts of the Western Valley, including French Peak. The Tall Whites Base, he says, was at the northern edge. For landings, they used Dogbone Lake, particularly around the full moon. Craft and Symbols Hall describes their craft as smooth, without sharp edges, ellipsoid like an egg. In today's UFO slang, many would say tic-tac. Sometimes they reminded him of the rounded front of a passenger locomotive, only without protrusions, everything rounded. The exterior bore no symbols, but inside were markings reminiscent of Egyptian hieroglyphs. Some range men speculated wildly that they might be ancient Egyptians stranded in the desert, a false trail that nonetheless hinted at how provocative the script looked. Communication and technology. The Tall Whites could stand side by side, conversing on frequencies inaudible to humans. From the outside, this looked like telepathy silence, then sudden laughter as if they had shared a private joke. Their electronics, Hall says, could also read human thoughts and even project thoughts directly into one's conscious mind, not through handheld devices, but via helmets or suit modules. Arms, protocol, and inside knowledge. However friendly some individuals appeared, the Tall Whites always arrived heavily armed. Even friends remained potentially dangerous. In the Pentagon, Hall claims only a small handful of insiders knew of real interactions. Among range maintenance men, a few knew more, but most only passed down the legend of Range 4 Harry, the supposed radioactive horse. Hall explains that this legend may have originated from tall white formation flights in protective suits. Seen from afar, a group of glowing figures hovering just above the desert floor could indeed resemble a ghostly horse galloping silently through the night. Travel to the stars and beyond relativity for Hall. The greatest shock was not that extraterrestrials existed, but how their ships moved. He became convinced that some tall white acquaintances, his tour guides, had been away on journeys not on Earth, but to another star system, perhaps Arcturus, about 36 light-years away. After 6 to 8 weeks, they returned. This would mean their craft must travel many times faster than light. Hall speculates speeds at least 40, the speed of light, directly contradicting Einstein's relativity. Out of this, he developed his own Hall Photon Theory, which he copyrighted in 1997. Central to his conviction, there exist far more subatomic particles and fields than relativity allows. These overlooked fields are what make faster-than-light travel possible. Years of service and key encounters. Hall recounts most of his encounters between 1965 and 1967, especially summer and autumn nights when full moons lit up Dogbone Lake. The Greys were common, their ships often seen. But the Tall Whites were more advanced silent, precise, smoothly rounded. Their family structures, with children and elders, gave the impression of an organized society. Coexistence, secrecy, pragmatism. According to Hall, collaboration between humans and aliens meant not open teamwork, but rather quiet coexistence. Agreements on the use of desert areas, transport, rules of protection. Carefully compartmentalized, never public. Books, films, and public presence. Hall wrote the 6-volume Millennial Hospitality series detailing his experiences. Filmmaker Emil Marsek produced Walking with the Tall Whites, later followed by an Aftermath project. Parallel to this, Hall published Beyond Relativity and gave a Rumble lecture titled Mirage Galaxies and EDGES in Space. Big claims, small corrections. Throughout, Hall often insists on specific details, correcting Army to Air Force, clarifying timeframes, adjusting area numbers, highlighting the precision of his accounts. His main message: faster-than-light travel is routine for the tall whites, therefore our physics must be incomplete. Mixed with these grand claims are simple anecdotes. An alien's laughter, a silent exchange on ultrasonic waves, a helmet device that plants thoughts. Together, these moments form Hall's worldview, a mix of meticulous detail, bold theory, and the extraordinary woven into the ordinary. Coming in Part 2, the story of Charles Hall and the Tall Whites has only just opened the door. What lies beyond is stranger still. Deeper accounts of interstellar travel, alleged agreements hidden in the Nevada desert, and the unsettling question of how much our governments might already know. Part 2 will move from desert encounters to the broader implications physics that rewrites our textbooks, the social structures of extraterrestrial families, and the possibility that humanity has never been alone in shaping its own history. If Part 1 traced the outline of the mystery, Part 2 steps directly into its heart.